Hi, everyone. Happy International Women's Day. The theme for this year's International Women's Day is Women and Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. You're joined today by myself, Ana Lantigua, Global ISV Manager here at Aprimo, as well as Noah Horberg. She is our Resident Marketing Specialist. And we're joined today by Lisa, our Director of Product Marketing and Customer Advocacy. Lisa, can you share a bit of what you do here at Aprimo and how your role has transformed over the years?
Sure. Thanks, Anna. So I actually first came into contact with Aprimo as a customer. I worked with two different companies helping to activate and implement Aprimo over the course of a decade. So I was a director of marketing operations, and also a manager of marketing technology, and loved the company culture, and decided I wanted to go to work for Aprimo. So my first job became a 7.5 year job. It was as an account executive, what it was called when I first started. But then as we moved into SaaS and the SaaS world, that title morphed to customer success director. And so I worked with over 30 of our customer accounts over the course of the 7.5 years, really helping them be successful with the application, handling escalations, contracts, all those kinds of things. And then just recently got to move into a position in product marketing that I'm very excited about as the Director of Product Marketing and Customer Advocacy. So I'll be working with all of our customers now on customer advocacy back into the product, we do a lot to get our product customer input into the product already, but we want to do more and have the customer shape the product more. So I'll be focused on that.
Thanks, Lisa. I know that we're very lucky to have you championing our customers here at Aprimo.
Thanks.
So, Lisa, what inspired you? And I know that you came into Aprimo through the clients. So, yeah. What inspired you to start joining more of the tech side of the industry?
My whole career has been in technology, pretty much. I think that was kind of predetermined, or just a given, because I got a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering back in the day. And so when I was in high school looking at different kinds of jobs, I loved math and science, and I didn't really want to go into just one or just the other one. So when I found out about engineering, it really appealed to me because it was a combination of math and science, and also I got to problem solve, and it was practical application oriented. So that's what I ended up researching different kinds of engineering, and liked electrical engineering because it was more math oriented. So ended up getting that degree, although as I worked in school in a co-op kind of program, I got to do some software design. And I was bound and determined when I got out of college to go into R&D. But Hewlett Packard called me, and they saw that I had some business classes too as part of my college education. And so they said, well, what would you think about working in technology with one of our engineering scientific measurements divisions, but in marketing? And so I went and looked at the job and really liked it because, again, it was a combination of technology and business. And so then I ended up working for Hewlett Packard for 15 years in just about every kind of marketing job there was, but it was marketing of a technology product and digitizing oscilloscopes and logic analyzers for engineers. So that's how I got started. And then from there at Hewlett Packard, I was exposed to Aprimo, got recruited by a software company to implement Aprimo then as the director of marketing operations, and then kind of went from there into marketing technology. So that's how it happened.
Wow, what a background you have. I mean, that's awesome. I feel like, were there a lot of women in electrical engineering when you were studying that in college? Because I feel like that, is definitely male dominant.
It was, and by the time I got to my junior and senior level classes, I would be one of I think there was maybe one class where I was the only woman, but usually one of only two or three in my upper level classes. So at the time, yeah, there was a joke amongst the advisors and professors because I didn't always wear jeans. So they call me the best dressed student, engineering student on campus just because I didn't wear jeans.
Yes.
So I thought it was fun to kind of, break the stereotypes of here's what an engineer is like, and they're nerdy. And so it was fun to, yeah, have my own style and take business classes and, just do things that were a little bit of breaking the stereotypes.
Totally. So throughout that journey, was there anyone that inspired you the most in the industry, or someone that you looked up to throughout, that time of being kind of the only woman in your classes and things like that?
In college, there was a Society of Women Engineers and also a Women in Engineering program. So that's kind of where we did get, I got some support, and got to interface with some of my peers in the different engineering disciplines. And so that was an encouragement to me. Once I got started at Hewlett Packard, the division head of marketing for our division for a period of time while I was there was a woman, Lynn Camp. And she was an inspiration to me in that she not only, was the head of marketing, but in a technically oriented market. And we worked a lot in that marketing group with the engineering team, the R&D team. And so you had to be able to, and customers were engineers. So you had to be able to speak a language of technology and yet put it into marketing communications and messaging. So that was a really good experience. Lynn was very good at that. She also really believed in me, and I appreciate the support she had. Was the head of marketing when I was sponsored to go on a Hewlett Packard resident fellowship. So I went and did my master's degree at Stanford. Hewlett Packard paid for it, which was great, and got to do my master's in engineering management. So again, a combination of technical and business. And she supported me to go and do that and to apply for and receive and go away from the division for a year and a half to do that. So I really appreciated that.
That's phenomenal, Lisa. Are there what other qualities do people like Lynn have contributed that have shown you the kind of qualities you want to embody as a woman leader here at Aprimo?
They've been the people who inspire me are both they're excellent in what they do, and they do their jobs, they're very well. So they're great at communicating. They're great at really teamwork, those kinds of things. And they also network well in the sense of I've had mentors who are not women, they're men, and they've really been good at their jobs and helped show me how to do my job better and have invested in me and mentored me. And I think that people that both look to have mentors themselves and people that to help them in their development, as well as then pay back and mentor other people and help them, in their development, help them on their career path. Those are the kind of people that I've really learned a lot from and respect a lot, and that seem to do well too in their careers.
That's beautiful, Lisa. Yeah, it always strikes a chord within me too, because I think there's such a balance between that idea of service and respect, and they're synonymous in so many ways. And it sounds like that rings true through your life.
Yes. So I ended up actually going back to, the University of Texas at Austin, my undergraduate alma mater, to interview people for Hewlett-Packard positions. And that was a fun way of reconnecting and helping other students then get jobs at Hewlett-Packard, match them well. And to this day, I still support the College of Engineering there, their Women in Engineering program. So would love to see. There's been a little bit ups and downs with, trying to encourage girls to go into science, STEM, science and technology and math kinds of degree programs. And we have to kind of keep talking about it to keep encouraging, because it seems like if you don't talk about it, then the numbers go down again, and there's fewer students enrolling. But overall, over the decades that I've been in technology, it's been a huge shift, and a lot more women in technology roles, a lot more women in technology kinds of programs and degrees at universities. So there's lots of progress that's been made.
Yeah, Lisa, can you speak to that a bit more on just the progress you've seen on gender equality within life and within things like STEM fields? Can you speak to that progress a bit more?
Yeah, it was interesting to me, as since you had sent me some of these questions, and I went back and looked at some of the statistics and how back 50 years ago there were 58% men and then less than 50% women getting college degrees, and now that's flopped. Now it's 56% women in colleges and universities, and then the rest guys. So there's been, I think, more emphasis on not only education, equal education for women, but also in the ability and equality of education in all different kinds of programs and all different kinds of degrees. It was interesting. There's a study that was done that talked about, and I didn't realize that I was the recipient of huge progress in the 1970s with women in careers and women in the workforce, and what kinds of degrees and jobs they got and went into. In the 1970s, look at some statistics here. 49% of women graduates from colleges were still in the workforce at age 30 to 34, only 49%. And 55% of those people in the workforce were teachers. But a decade later, in 1980, that had changed to 70% of the women who had college degrees were still in the workforce at 30 to 34, and only 36% were in the teaching profession. So I came, to college in a time when those degree programs were opened up and were, encouraged as girls were encouraged to go into those kinds of programs and to really kind of stretch our wings, see what we wanted to do, take advantage of what our aptitudes were. And so there's been a big change, even prior to my going to college. But then after, I just have noticed, even in the last decade, with my just prior to coming to Aprimo, and then over my time at Aprimo, that I'm working with a lot more women in sales positions, in engineering positions, and software development positions. So there's been a shift towards equality there, definitely.
Wow. I mean, those stats that you mentioned are mind-blowing. It's so cool to actually see that real progress has been made. So, we talk about progress towards gender equality all the time, but to actually see those numbers change, and I'm sure for you to actually, continue working throughout those years and see it change, with who your coworkers are. The more you work at one place, the more women you see working there. That must be really amazing. And obviously, we may never get exactly towards, perfect gender equality, right? There's so many things constantly that we want to solve for, in order to get there. But, you know, if you had to choose one thing to solve for today, which would you choose?
I think I've mentioned before that I have a passion, of course, being in technology, to see young women go into technology kinds of degree programs. So it's I don't know totally like the nut, how to crack the nut as far as like I mentioned, that there'll be a big initiative towards women in science and engineering for education, and the minute you take your foot off the pedal, that goes back down. So if I could solve for that, and that's why I contribute to the Women in Engineering program at my alma mater, and that's why I mentor people that are kind of coming replacing me in jobs, and even like women that I work with in other companies. I just love to see women in technology and being able to use that, the math and science part of their brain, when that's what they're wired for, and that's one of the things that they're good at. So I think that's what I would solve for.
I love that.
I think oftentimes we don't even know what we're interested in until we start learning a bit more about it. And so Lisa, just this diversification of that knowledge and introducing people early on into things like the science technology space is so imperative. So thank you for touching on that.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Well, okay, so I want to shift gears a little bit because, again, the theme for this year's International Women's Day is around how to promote gender equality amidst COVID-19. COVID-19 has disproportionately affected women at home and women that are struggling with balancing full-time motherhood as well as work from home. And I know that this is something that you've dealt with in your own life, and a managerial role at the same time as raising your children. So can you speak to the difficulties there, and then ultimately speak towards, just the progress that you've seen in that realm?
Yeah, I would say that was maybe one of the primary struggles that I had as far as gender equality in the workforce, back in the day when I was newly married, starting to have children. There weren't a lot of women working part-time, working from home. It was a lot more just in the office and full-time. So in a way, COVID has made people more receptive to that kind of flexible work arrangement, which is great. I would say, though, that I took advantage of FMLA, which everyone just kind of Family Medical Leave Act was just coming into existence when I was starting to have kids. And Hewlett Packard, I was so fortunate, had a really good policy in place that was even better than FMLA as far as the amount of leave you could take. So I actually took 6 months off when I had each of our biological children. We later adopted one more. But having that time off was, the space that I needed. And then I came back part-time each time. And at the time, Hewlett Packard, they wanted engineers, period, because there was a lot of competition going on for engineers and people in technology, but women also. So I really kind of stuck my foot out and said, I want to take 6 months off, when I have my baby, and I want to come back full time. And there was a little bit of kind of bewilderment. How do we do this? How do we work with this? But they were receptive. They listened. And I would say that, flexibility on both sides is really a win-win. That the company was flexible with me, and I've looked for companies that have really good culture that's oriented towards teamwork and individual development, and so that I can ask those kinds of questions, make those kinds of requests that maybe it hasn't been done before, but that they worked with me. They said, well, let's try this out and see how it goes. and then evaluate. And I, made it work, and it was a good fit for me. So having that flexibility, and then I was flexible for them. If I needed to, be there one day for a big meeting the whole day, then I made that happen because they were flexible for me. And so then I wanted to be flexible in return for them. And that was really a win-win. It worked well. And so I think that COVID, like I said, has maybe opened some doors to some more discussions in that realm. But I would encourage, whether it's women, men, anybody who's someone with disabilities, when you want to do something that's like out of the norm or different, raise your hand, and just ask for what you want or need. Be willing to negotiate. Like, they're not necessarily going to say yes to everything, but it won't happen if you don't ask. So ask.
That's amazing advice. I think that could go, for anybody and anything in life. It's like, how can you get something that you want without asking for it? So that's incredible. I think also women probably anybody in general, but I think sometimes women might have a difficult time, speaking up or being heard. And so, what kind of advice would you give to young women out there that, to help them guarantee respect and to be heard within the workplace?
Couple of things I would say. First is back to the theme of excellence in what you do. When you strive to be excellent at your job, to do it well, you will earn respect. And when you earn that respect, and then there's opportunity there, that opens doors for you when you work hard and do your job well. And so that's one thing. And the other thing, I would say, as far as having a voice, and other people in the company would probably laugh because I'm one of the people who it gets back to and asking questions, being curious, making sure you understand. So when we're in meetings, I'll be one of the people that will pipe up and say, what about this? And here's what I think, and not to I don't do it just to do it. I mean, like, people will know, they'll figure that out. So I don't do it in any kind of like fake or, I need to make my voice heard kind of thing. I do it from the perspective of, I want to be the best in my role and do a great job. And so I'm going to ask the questions or say what I need to say in order to do my job well. And I think having that voice, then people know you're engaged, people know you care, people know you're trying to do the best job possible and do your job with excellence. And again, that will lead to respect.
Yeah, speak with purpose. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good way to say it.
And humility too, because to your point, not be afraid to not only raise your hand and ask questions, but admit when you don't know the answer and say, hey, I'm trying to learn right here along with you guys, and how important it is.
Totally.
Yep.
It's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. Is there any last words you would want to give to anybody watching this to celebrate International Women's Day?
Oh, let's see. Let me look here. Notes. Yeah, I think one thing I would say is, I never really approached a job, a company, or what I was doing in my career from the standpoint of looking for inequalities or feeling like that I had to prove myself or force my way anywhere. I really didn't see. I wouldn't say that I didn't see inequality, but the approach that I took was assuming that people were going to treat me with respect, that people were going to treat me equitably, and certainly saying something when I didn't experience that. But I think the approach of instead of kind of looking for where people aren't treating you equally, or looking for where they haven't given you respect, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're looking for that, that's what you'll see. If you're looking for just making progress, new opportunities, and growing in your personal development, assuming that people are going to treat you equitably. Of course, some of that depends on, there's some companies that their culture is not that way, and it's like, get out. But that's one of the things I've looked for in companies and that culture makes a huge difference. And your individual manager makes a huge difference. So I've always assumed the best and assumed that people have good intentions. And so what I've seen in my career is I've never not had opportunities and never not been able to move into management and work in different kinds of situations and with different kinds of teams and people. So it's that self-fulfilling prophecy thing of look for opportunities, look for ways to contribute, propose solutions to problems, and don't just be like the person that says there's a problem here, but come with, okay, this is a problem, but I've got some ideas on the solution. And so with that kind of a forward-looking attitude and assuming that people are going to respect you, that tends to be what you receive.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. That's amazing.
No, I mean, it really is. I love what you're talking about with the self-fulfilling prophecy as well. When you're putting yourself out there in the way that when you're treating others with respect, that's what you give is what you ultimately get in return as well. And so, and what you said, if you come across a situation where that's not present, you put boundaries down and you continue to move forward, because it sounds like, Lisa, from what you shared, that you've had champions, both men and women, that have championed your progress throughout your life.
Yes.
And it's fed so much into what we see today and the progress that we've seen thus far in the past decades. So, and that's incredible.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it makes me think about I'm not the kind of person who follows famous people or tends to idolize even people like leaders in our industry or anything like that. But I do remember reading Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In, and she's had wonderful influence on women in technology, and just encouraging women and young girls to look at all their options and opportunities. And the thing I remember from Lean In is not so much, the book did talk about gender inequality and calling some of that out, but it also talked about the way we personally can hold ourselves back. And that's what I took away from that book is the ways that I tended to hold myself back and, not speak up or not say something that I should have. And it really encouraged me to speak up, step out, and that there were things that I could do to influence that that the treatment and the gender equality kind of issue. And it had to do with how I viewed myself and the things that like wiping away or working on the things that I did to hold me back. Because I can control those things. I can, I can make those changes. We work together as a whole, as a society, to work on the overall issues. But I can change the things today that are that where I'm holding myself back. So
leading through example and holding yourself to a personal accountability level. Thus, so holding everyone around you to the same degree and encouraging that behavior in others as well. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
TED Talks by Lisa. That.
Lisa, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us and answering all of our questions. You clearly are, one of the female champions of Aprimo, and all your work is really appreciated in general. So
thank you. Thank you so much. Love being a part of this. Appreciate you asking me.